Welcome back to the Big and Little crochet throw, and this is hexagon number 22, and we're going to start off with the teal. We've got the pale blue, sky blue and the teal, but with the teal I'm going to make a chain of 6. So we start off as ever with a slip knot, so loop around like that, and if you need to take a bit more time than I'm giving you, just pause the video and then you can start again when you've caught up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch. So go back into the first stitch and pull the yarn through, and then we've got a little ring. And now we're going to be doing trebles into this, so I'm going to do 3 chain for my treble and then an extra one because there's a gap in between each one. So a treble now into the ring and then a chain space. So yarn over through the ring, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2 again. In we go, and then a chain space. So do that all the way round and there'll be 12 of those little spokes and gaps. There we are. So that's what the little wheel should look like, and don't forget to do your last chain before you join with a slip stitch to the third of that group of chains you did at the beginning. And then we're going to fasten off the teal because we're going to be using the sky blue next. We're going to be doing clusters, so just make that all nice and even, and then I'm going to join the sky blue to any one of those 1 chain spaces. So I'll start off with a slip knot and go into one of these spaces, and we start off with 2 chains and then a 2 treble cluster. So 2 treble, you go through and do the first part of the treble, and then you go in again and do the first part of a second treble and then pull through all 3. And then there's a 3 chain gap, and then in the next space we're going to do a 3 treble cluster. So yarn over and through 2, yarn over again and through 2, yarn over again and through another 2, and then pull. There's 4 loops, look, and I'm going to go through all of them all at the same time, and then a 3 chain gap. So that makes the cluster makes those little petals with the little pointed tips, and we're going to do 1 in each of the gaps all the way around. So I fastened off the sky blue, and now I'm going to join the teal again to any of those 3 chain spaces, and we're going to do trebles. So I'm going to start off with 3 chains as a standing chain, and then another 3 trebles into that same space, and then 4 trebles in the next space, don't forget we're doing UK trebles here, so an American treble is what we would call a double treble, so that's quite a different thing. And then there's a 2 chain corner, and then another 4 trebles. So you do 4 trebles twice and then a 2 chain gap for your corner. So obviously there should be 6 corners. So there's a corner, and then 4 trebles here and another corner, and so on. So now I've been all the way around, and I'm going to finish off with a 2 chain and join with a slip stitch to the top of there. And again we're going to fasten off because we're going to change back to the sky blue. And the next round is worked not into spaces but into stitches, and that's an important distinction to make. And we're going to join to any of those corner spaces that we made. Here we are, and again I'll start with a little slip knot. So I'm going to join to one of those 2 chain corners, and we're trebling again. So I'm going to start off with 3 chains, and then we'll do 1 treble into the top of each of those 8 stitches. So starting off here, so the stitch is usually just to the top on the right of the actual post of the stitch itself, and again I'm laying that short end at the back there. So just 1 stitch in the top of each of those. And then when you get to the corner, the next one, we're going to do 1 treble and 2 chains and 1 treble. And then you kick off down the row again. So that's a bit more of a traditional round. And at the end of that round, I'm going to do that 2 chain and then join with a slip stitch to the top of the first 3 chain that you did. And then we're going to rejoin the teal for a bit of half treble fun for our last round. So I'm going to join to a corner. Just make the slip stitch nice and snug on my hook, and I'm going to do 2 chains because that's the standing chain for a half treble, and then I'm going to do 1 half treble in each of these stitches. Now there were 8 with 2 in the corners, so now we've got 10. So yarn over into the stitch under both bars, and then yarn over again and through all 3 stitches. So under both bars, yarn over again and through all 3. And I'm hooking the short end in at the back in my lazy guide to not sewing in your ends. And when we get to the corner, we're going to do a half treble, 2 chain and another half treble. And then we'll kick off down that row again, remembering that the first stitch is right here. And then at the end I've done my 2 chain, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the first 2 chain. There we are, and we can fasten off, because that is hexagon number 22 done.